Tony Medina with MMANews.com here at the THQ headquarters with Nevin Dravinsky, the producer of the new Ultimate Fighter game. Nevin, how you doing?
I'm doing great. I'm doing great. Thank you.
Great. Hey,
Can't
thanks.
speak at all, apparently.
Yeah, no, that's fine. Thanks for taking the time
Oh, my
to
pleasure,
talk
my
to us,
pleasure.
and thanks for having us here
My
at your
pleasure.
headquarters. Got a few questions for you. What are your thoughts on the Ultimate Fighter game, and tell me a little bit about the vision, the production, and where we are today.
Well, when we started out making this game, we had two goals in mind. Number one, make the best representation of the UFC brand, and number two, make the best MMA game ever made. And through our work with the UFC and the extensive amount of work we've done with the game, I think we've managed to achieve both of those goals. I think you're going to see the same. You're going to have the same experience that you would watching a UFC pay-per-view or a fight night card. You're going to see the same broadcast graphics, hear the same commentary. Over 80 fighters spanning all 5 weight classes, and then on top of which we have a really deep mixed martial arts game. Taking into account the striking, the grappling, and the clinches, and the ground game transitions and submissions. So, I think we've actually been able to deliver a very representative game that captures both the UFC brand and the sport of mixed martial arts.
Great. And you're talking about the capturing of the sport and how you guys made it very realistic. Tell me a little bit about who you brought in or what kind of things you did to really capture that.
Yeah, we worked with Joe Silva, UFC's own matchmaker, on creating the roster. Had guys come in and consult, for jiu-jitsu, like Mark Lyman out of Cobra Kai in Vegas was coming in a lot, big gamer, but also, really skilled at the jits. So, we're talking to him about stuff. Some of our designers training with guys, on everything. And on top of that, all of our other designers are, have been doing combat games for a long time, working on, like strategy guides for Street Fighter or doing Mortal Kombat, et cetera, et cetera. So there's a lot of real depth to the gameplay. While it's still going to be accessible, there's a lot of depth, and we really tried to make it representative, again, of the sport of mixed martial arts, and really give you that feeling that you're actively participating in a fight.
Great. And can you tell me a little bit about there was a little Clay Guida wasn't in the game, and it was not really your guys' fault, more of a technical issue. Can you explain a little bit?
Yeah, well, it's just making the game. You kind of have to make sacrifices at times, and Clay unfortunately has the distinction of being the one guy in the UFC with long flowing locks. And look, I'm a big fan of Clay, and it came down to a timing issue, and sometimes you just have to make a difficult call. If you're gonna get a game out on time, and we're already actively looking into solutions for that. So sorry, Clay, it'll happen.
Good. And what are your future plans for going forward with UFC games, even just Ultimate Fighting and MMA as a sport in video games?
Well, I think we wanted to create this foundation, that people can see, this is the best MMA game made to date, and we hope to set the bar. It's no secret MMA is getting more and more popular. There's sure to be other games coming around, but we have the #1 brand in the world for fighting, and we aim to really set the bar and a lot more nuance and a lot more kind of delving into the UFC world and being able to leverage our relationship with the UFC. I think future iterations are going to see a lot more content, a lot cooler stuff, and just again, like we're as big a fan as anybody. We're on the boards, we're watching all the fights, watching the weigh-ins online all the time. So we put a lot of internal pressure on ourselves to make sure that this game doesn't suck, quote unquote. So I think future iterations will be keeping with that mindset of trying to deliver the best possible product to the fans.
Good. And now we just went through an extensive preview here of the game
Certainly.
you gave us. Could you walk us through the viewers that didn't get to sit in the room here? Kind of walk us through the different levels and kind of getting the game out of the package to where it can take you.
Yeah, certainly. Well, I think most people start out the game, they'll be going into exhibition mode where you can choose, from all 5 weight classes, over 80 fighters. Go in there with Muay Thai or judo or boxing, wrestling, kickboxing, all the guys that that are in the UFC, the things that they're good at. We really made an effort to make sure that we capture the things that they're good at as well as the things that they're susceptible to. So I think, if you already have an understanding of these guys and their history and their careers, you're going to have an inherent advantage playing the game. Then from there, We have a career mode where you're allowed to kind of build your fighter from the ground up, literally creating their physical appearance, also picking their fighting styles. You'll get camp invites from real UFC camps. Like, for example, you work on your jiu-jitsu at Team Penn, work on your Muay Thai with Delagrati at Sichotong. So again, immersing you in the world of the UFC. And then from there, from classic fights, you can take your guy, go online with your retired fighter. If you fight for the belt, you're going to, have stats that are going to be in some cases better than the roster fighters. You can take that guy online then, fight ranked matches, non-ranked matches against your created fighters, against roster fighters. Also on top of that, we have a classic fights mode, which allows us to do a lot more extra presentation, some cool video clips from the UFC and relive some of the most important fights in the UFC's history, like things that really put the UFC on the map and kind of change the fate of, the guys that we see today. So there's a lot of depth and a lot of areas where you could spend a lot of time in, or at the same time, it's a very accessible pickup play with your buddies, knock some people out. But, much like the real UFC, if you want to win and win consistently, you're going to have to invest the time in learning all the aspects of the game, the ground game, the grapples, the clinch, transitions, submissions. So again, I think it'll appeal to, whatever type of game you're looking for. It has that level of accessibility, but still, incredibly deep and difficult to master.
And last thing here, you mentioned retiring a fighter and using him. What's the career life of a fighter here in the UFC game?
So we have our career around like 7 years. So you go through, you're fighting up the weight class in your division. You go fight for the belt and then defend your belt. You can retire your fighter at any time, but the goal is really to maximize your stats as much as possible with the idea of creating this fighter that in some cases will be better than the roster fighter. So really, it's about giving you that carrot of increasing your stats, increasing your abilities, going to camp invites, training, sparring, and all in the hopes of making that super guy. You can have your super submission guy, your super stand-up guy. Since we don't allow you to maximize your stats in every category, you really kind of have to pick and choose what kind of guy do I want to make, how do I want to fight, and it gives you that opportunity to have it both ways.
Great. Well, hey, Phil, thanks. Real quick, one last thing. Why don't you let us know the release dates for this game?
UFC 2009 Undisputed will be available May 19th for the Xbox 360 and PlayStation 3.
Outstanding. Well, Tony Medina, MMANews.com here at THQ headquarters, and thank you very much.
My pleasure.
All right.
Pleasure. Thank you.
He was going to be featured as one of the trainers in the game, correct?
Yes, I am. I think I'm the Muay Thai or the Jiu-Jitsu trainer. I'm not sure which one.
Right. And just talk to me a little bit about the process of making the game and what were some of the highlights, some of the low points, and what are you most proud of?
I think the thing we're most proud about is just how accessible it is. It's anybody can pick it up and have fun with it. But if you want to invest in it and spend time getting better at it, you can learn the intricacies of the ground game, which is very deep. So I think that's probably our biggest selling point, is that it's so easy to pick up and just start playing and have fun.
Yeah, and give me some of the highlights and lowlights. What are some of the things that you guys had to overcome and that you did overcome and made into this awesome game?
I would think that one of the high points is that we've managed to recreate the sport of MMA fairly well. There's a lot of positions. There's a lot of transitioning between the positions. There's a lot of submissions. There's striking. There's clinching. There's so much to it. Just like MMA, there's so much to MMA. There's so much in the game that people can do. So I think that's one of the high points, is that we managed to get all that stuff into a game and fit it on the controller where people can pick it up and just start playing, and it's not overbearing and you're not getting lost in the controls. So I think that's one of the high points that we managed to do.
Great. All right. Well, hey, thanks for talking to me, Wes. MMANews.com at THQ headquarters.